7:41. With me now is Mary Pearson, management consultant. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Dina.
How are you? Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me here.
This is important. We're talking about fear in the workplace, and a lot of people are hearing with the economy being where it's at that their fear is of losing a job. But we're talking about a very different kind of fear. What type of fear?
Well, it's fear that's deliberate. It's fear that management or leadership imposes on their employees in an effort to control them. And this has been around for a long, long time. So when you want to control a lot of people, you can use some intimidation tactics, and this unfortunately is something that happens in many workplaces at all levels.
Commonplace in any work environment? It is
commonplace, and people don't talk about it enough. And I wrote about it in my column, but I've written about it before. And basically because we have to raise awareness of it. And people go into work expecting to be treated fairly and respectfully, and often they're not. They could be shouted at by their boss, they could be isolated. If they speak up and they have an idea, it may be that the boss may humiliate them, so that's another tactic, to be humiliated in front of your colleagues. A workplace that uses intimidation tactics, it could be the CEO, it could be the executive team. So sometimes there's a collusion between the CEO and the executive, and managers who participate in that could be rewarded. For example, if you do the same thing as your CEO and you're mirroring that behavior, it creates a culture of intimidation in the workplace. You can see that in universities, you can see it in government, in corporations.
It's a form of bullying, really.
It is bullying. It is what you would call the bully boss. But I think the difference is that it could be cultural. So because it's at the senior levels, there is a culture of intimidation. So you'll find in that kind of organization, people are silent, they're afraid to speak up. There could be a fair number of firings, just sudden firing of someone.
With no explanation?
With very little explanation, or there's a lot of sick leave. There really isn't any forum for discussion. Perhaps there aren't meetings to discuss things. The other thing is, this is really bad for business because there's no risk analysis in this kind of organization. So the boss will say, I know what I'm doing, you're going to follow my path, and no one speaks up. So the emperor has no clothes, no one says the emperor has no clothes, and so the risk assessment is gone.
It's interesting you talk about culture and how it's really ingrained. I know with a lot of people, they say, and we've all experienced it, I think, in one form or another, some sort of fear in the workplace or intimidation tactic. Mm-hmm. It's the thing where they say, well, that's doing business, and you need to get a thick skin, mm-hmm. and you should be able to, take it in without fully absorbing it and then just plow through. Do you think how do you correct that sort of way or line of thinking? Because obviously a lot of times it's not okay, and it could be, borderline verbal abuse.
Yeah, often there is verbal abuse or emotional abuse. I think the reason that it happens is part of our capitalistic system says, the strongest, it's the survival of the strongest. And in doing that, we ignore that people bring their emotions to work. I mean, you come into the workplace and you can't just shut your emotions off. So if you're not respected, if you're not highly regarded in the community of your workplace, because our workplaces are our communities, so if you are isolated or you're not treated respectfully in front of others, or another example may be that you may be thinking you're doing a good job and the boss just gives you criticism, negative feedback, or may surprise you in some way by expecting you to do a piece of work but withholding information from you that you might need. And sometimes this is consciously done. It could be if the leader is insecure and wants to maintain strong control of the group.
Sure. Comes in many different forms, and actually in part 2 of this we're going to talk about the solutions that are available. Some may surprise you. It's not what you think. For more information, organizationwisdom.com. As well, you can check out some of the columns in thefinancialpost.com where you contribute bi-weekly articles, and Mary will be back for all of the solutions to dealing with your fear in the workplace so you can get rid of it once and for all. Over to Kevin in the newsroom. Actually, we're going to Janet Livi. Thanks, Mary.